Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the HSS Meridian, watching the stars through the large window in front of him. The ship moved quietly through space, far from Earth and the other human worlds. They had been exploring this area for 3 months now, looking for new planets and maybe other forms of life. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the long-range sensors," said Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake from his station. He was a tall man with dark hair who had served with Morrison for 5 years. "It looks like ships, but they're huge. Much bigger than anything we've ever seen." Morrison walked over to Blake's station and looked at the screen. The readings showed massive objects moving through space about 2 light years away. "How many?" he asked. "At least 50, maybe more. They're moving in formation like a military fleet." Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her science station. She was a small woman with brown hair who specialized in studying alien life. "This could be our first contact with an intelligent alien species," she said with excitement in her voice. "We need to be very careful about how we approach this," Morrison nodded. "Set course for their location, but keep our distance. I want to observe them first before we make any contact." The meridian changed direction and headed toward the alien fleet. As they got closer, the sensors showed more details. The ships were enormous, some of them 10 times larger than the biggest human vessels. They had a dark, angular design that looked both beautiful and threatening. "They've noticed us," Blake reported. 3 of their ships are breaking formation and heading our way." Morrison felt his heart beat faster. This was the moment humans had been preparing for since they first reached the stars. "All stop," he ordered. "Dr. Grant, prepare the first contact protocols. We'll try to communicate with them." Meanwhile, aboard the largest alien ship, Overlord Zephyrin stared at the small human vessel on his screen. He was a tall reptilian creature with scales that changed color based on his mood. Right now, they were a dark red, showing his annoyance. "What is that tiny thing?" he asked General Vorthak, who stood beside him. Vorthak was smaller than Zephyrin, but equally dangerous, with sharp teeth and cold, calculating eyes. "It appears to be a primitive exploration vessel," Vorthak replied. "The species is unknown to us, but their technology is clearly inferior. The ship is barely the size of one of our fighters." Zephyrin laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Another weak species ready for conquest. How many systems do they control?" "Unknown, but judging by this single ship, probably not many. They seem to be early in their space exploration phase." The Caltharian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. They had conquered dozens of species, always using the same method. They would find a new civilization, study their weaknesses, and then demand complete surrender. Those who refused were destroyed. Those who submitted became slaves. "Send them our standard ultimatum," Zephyrin ordered. "They have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally, or we will destroy their ship and hunt down their homeworld." Back on the Meridian, the crew received the alien message. The translation software worked quickly, turning the alien language into English. When Morrison read it, his face grew serious. "They're demanding our surrender?" he told his crew. "Complete and unconditional surrender of our ship and information about Earth's location. What's our response?" Blake asked, his hand moving toward the weapons controls. "We tried diplomacy first," Morrison said. "Dr. Grant, send them our peaceful contact message. Let them know we come in peace and want to establish friendly relations." Grant sent a carefully prepared message that included mathematical sequences, pictures of Earth, and basic information about human culture. The message emphasized that humans were peaceful explorers who wanted to learn about other species on the Caltharian flagship. Vorthak read the human response and sneered. "They're trying to negotiate. They think they can bargain with us." "Typical weakness," Zephyrin said. "Fire a warning shot. Disable their engines, but don't destroy them yet. I want to see how they react to real power." The Caltharian ship fired a single energy beam that hit the Meridian's engine section. The human ship shook violently, and alarms began ringing throughout the bridge. "Engine power is down to 20%, reported engineer Kate Sullivan from her station. She was a young woman with red hair who could fix almost anything. They hit us with some kind of energy weapon. It's damaged our main drive systems. Morrison gripped the arms of his captain's chair. Are we still mobile? Barely. We can't outrun them, and we can't jump to faster than light speed. Captain, Blake said urgently, they're sending another message. The new message was shorter and more direct. The aliens were coming aboard their ship. Any resistance would result in the death of the entire crew. They're boarding us, Morrison announced to his crew. Follow emergency protocols. Hide the important data and prepare for capture. Remember, we are explorers, not soldiers. We don't fight unless we have no choice. 20 minutes later, the Caltharian boarding party arrived. They were large, frightening creatures wearing heavy armor and carrying weapons that hummed with energy. They moved through the ship quickly. Capturing the human crew and gathering them in the main cargo bay, the boarding party was led by Commander Zirith, a scarred veteran who had conquered many worlds. He looked at the humans with disgust. They were small, weak-looking creatures with soft skin and no natural weapons. "Which one is the leader?" Zirith demanded. Morrison stepped forward. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Meridian. We are peaceful explorers. We mean no harm to your people." Zirith struck Morrison across the face with his armored hand, sending the captain to the floor. "You speak when I tell you to speak, primitive." Dr. Sam Parker, the ship's medical officer, rushed to help Morrison. Parker was an older man who had dedicated his life to healing others. He knelt beside the captain and began examining his injuries. "Stay back," Zirith warned, pointing his weapon at Parker. "I'm a doctor," Parker said calmly. "I'm just trying to help him," I said. "Stay back." Parker ignored the warning and continued to tend to Morrison's wounds. He believed that helping injured people was more important than his own safety. It was a principle that all human doctors followed. Zirith became angry at being ignored. Without warning, he fired his weapon. The energy beam struck Parker in the chest, killing him instantly. The other humans cried out in horror. Morrison, despite his injuries, crawled to Parker's body. The doctor was dead, killed while trying to help someone who was hurt. "You killed him," Morrison said, his voice filled with pain and anger. "He was a healer. He was trying to help." "He disobeyed my orders," Zirith replied coldly. "Let this be a lesson to the rest of you." But Morrison was no longer listening. He was thinking about what Parker had represented. In human culture, doctors were sacred. They helped everyone, even enemies. To kill a doctor who was trying to heal someone was one of the worst crimes possible. Blake, who had been watching from across the room, managed to activate a hidden communication device. With quick, careful movements, he sent an emergency message to Earth. The message contained everything: the location of the alien fleet, their weapons, their tactics, and most importantly, what they had done to Dr. Parker. The message would take several weeks to reach Earth, but when it did, it would change everything. As the Caltharians continued to secure their prisoners, none of them realized what they had done. They thought they had encountered another weak species ready for conquest. They had no idea that they had just made the worst mistake in their empire's long history. They had killed a human doctor who was trying to help, and humanity would never forget that. The Galactic Council chambers were a massive structure floating in space between three stars. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered here to discuss trade, territory, and war. The building itself was a symbol of power, with each species having seats based on how strong their military was and how much space they controlled. High Counselor Nexus stood at the center of the Great Hall. He was a tall, thin creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His species, the Zentari, had been running the Council for 300 years. They were not the strongest fighters, but they were smart and knew how to make deals between the more powerful species. "We are here to discuss the recent expansion of the Caltharian Empire," Nexus announced to the assembled representatives. "Overlord Zephyrin has reported contact with a new species in the Outer Rim sectors." The mention of the Caltharians caused many representatives to shift nervously in their seats. The Caltharian Empire was the most feared power in the galaxy. Their ships were the largest, their weapons the most deadly, and their armies had never been defeated in battle. Ambassador Threll of the Vaxian Trade Union raised one of his 6 arms. What do we know about this new species? He asked. The Vaxians were merchants who cared more about profit than conquest, but they needed to know which species were safe to trade with. Very little, Nexus replied. They call themselves humans. They appear to be in the early stages of space exploration. The Caltharians encountered only one of their ships, a small exploration vessel with primitive technology. General Korvac of the Draconian fleet laughed loudly. The Draconians were one of the few species that could challenge the Caltharians in direct combat, though they had never tried. Another weak species ready for conquest. How boring. The humans attempted to negotiate, Nexus continued. They sent mathematical sequences and pictures of their homeworld. They claimed to be peaceful explorers seeking friendship. This caused more laughter throughout the chamber. The idea of a spacefaring species being peaceful was ridiculous to most of the council members. In their experience, any species advanced enough to travel between stars was advanced enough to wage war. What was the Caltharian response? Asked Councillor Vex of the Saurian Dominion. The Saurians were reptilian creatures who respected strength above all else. Standard procedure, Nexus replied. Overlord Zephyrin demanded immediate surrender. When the humans tried to negotiate, the Caltharians disabled their ship and took the crew prisoner. The humans offered no resistance. Pathetic, General Korvac sneered. At least most species try to fight before they surrender. These humans sound like they have no warrior spirit at all. Deep in space, 3 weeks after the incident, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake's emergency message was racing toward Earth. At the speed of light? The message contained detailed information about the Caltharian fleet, their weapons, their tactics, and most importantly, what they had done to Dr. Sam Parker. On Earth, Admiral Frank Carter was reviewing reports in his office at the Earth Defense Force headquarters. Carter was a veteran of many conflicts, including the war that had united all of Earth's nations under one government. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his face from old battles. His aide, Colonel Maria Santos, entered the office with a worried expression. Admiral, we've received an emergency transmission from the Meridian. It's bad, sir. Carter took the datapad and began reading. His face grew darker with each sentence. When he finished, he was quiet for a long moment. They killed Dr. Parker, he said finally. They killed him while he was trying to help Captain Morrison. Yes, sir. The message says the alien commander shot him without warning. Parker was unarmed and providing medical aid. Carter stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the towers of New Geneva, the capital of the United Earth government. Beyond that, he could see the space elevators that carried ships and supplies to the orbital shipyards. Contact the Defense Council, Carter ordered. Emergency session. All members, all department heads, we need to meet within the hour. Sir. Should I also contact Ambassador Elena Rodriguez? Carter thought about this. Rodriguez was Earth's chief diplomat, a woman who believed that all problems could be solved through negotiation. She would want to try talking to the aliens first. Yes, contact her. But make it clear that this is a military briefing. The time for diplomacy may have already passed. 2 hours later, the Earth Defense Council met in the underground war room beneath the Capitol. The room was designed to survive nuclear war and contained the most advanced communication and planning equipment on Earth. Around the table sat the leaders of humanity's military forces. General Lisa Park commanded the Earth Army. Admiral Susan Hayes led the Space Navy. Air Marshal David Chang controlled the atmospheric defense forces. And at the head of the table sat Admiral Carter, the supreme commander of all human military forces. Ambassador Rodriguez was also present, though she looked uncomfortable in the military setting. She was a small woman with dark hair who had spent her career trying to prevent wars, not start them. The situation is clear, Carter began. A human exploration vessel has been captured by an alien empire. 3 crew members are dead, including Dr. Sam Parker, who was killed while providing medical aid. The aliens have demanded information about Earth's location and have threatened to hunt down our homeworld. What do we know about their military capabilities? Asked Admiral Hayes. According to Blake's report, they have at least 50 ships in the fleet that attacked the Meridian. The ships are much larger than ours, and their weapons can disable our engines from long range. How many ships do they have in total? Asked General Park. Unknown, but they claim to rule most of this sector of the galaxy. They've been conquering other species for over 1,000 years. Ambassador Rodriguez leaned forward. Admiral, surely we should try to establish diplomatic contact. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. Carter looked at her with cold eyes. They killed a doctor who was trying to help someone. That's not a misunderstanding. That's murder. But if we attack them, we could start a war that destroys both our species. The war has already started, Carter replied. They started it when they killed our people. Air Marshal Chang spoke up. What are our options? We can't just leave our people in their hands. Carter activated the holographic display in the center of the table. It showed a map of local space, with Earth at the center and the Caltharian position marked in red. We have 3 choices, he said. We can try to negotiate, knowing that they've already shown they don't respect our peaceful intentions. We can abandon our people and hope the aliens don't find Earth, or we can respond with force. What kind of force? Asked Admiral Hayes. Carter smiled grimly. The kind that will make them understand that humanity is not as weak as they think. Sir, Rodriguez said urgently, if we attack them, we'll be starting a war with a species that has conquered dozens of worlds. We could be destroyed. Or, Carter replied, we could show them what happens when someone makes the mistake of killing a human doctor. The room fell silent. Everyone knew about the sacred place that healers held in human culture. Doctors, nurses, and medics were protected by every human military force. To kill a medic was considered one of the worst war crimes possible. I need to know, Carter said, looking around the table. Are we in agreement? Do we respond to this attack with military force? One by one, the military leaders nodded. Even Ambassador Rodriguez, though she looked unhappy about it, agreed that diplomacy had failed. Then it's decided, Carter said. We go to war. He pressed a button on the table, and alarms began sounding throughout the building. Across Earth and in secret bases throughout the solar system, the call went out. For the first time in human history, the entire species was preparing for war against an alien enemy. The aliens thought they understood power. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 6 weeks after the attack on the Meridian, space around the Caltharian fleet suddenly filled with new ships. 50 human vessels appeared from faster-than-light travel, their hulls dark and sleek. At the center of the formation was the HSS Retribution, Admiral Carter's flagship. On the bridge of the Caltharian command ship, General Vorthik stared at his screens in surprise. Where did they come from? He demanded. They appeared from hyperspace jumps, his sensor officer reported. All at once in perfect formation. Their jump calculations were extremely precise. Overlord Zephyrin walked onto the bridge and looked. At the human fleet, only 50 ships? Are they insane? We have over 200 vessels. Perhaps they don't understand our superiority, Vorthik said. Their technology seemed primitive when we captured their scout ship. Or perhaps, Zephyrin replied with a cruel smile, they're here to surrender properly this time. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking at the massive Caltharian fleet through the main screen. His crew was quiet and focused. They had trained for this moment for years, but none of them had expected their first alien war to begin with the murder of a doctor. Open a channel to the alien flagship, Carter ordered. The communication officer, Lieutenant Jenny Walsh, worked at her station. Channel open, Admiral. Carter's voice carried clearly across space to the Caltharian command ship. This is Admiral Frank Carter of the Earth Defense Force. You are holding human prisoners. You have murdered our people. You have 30 minutes to return our crew members unharmed and surrender unconditionally. This is your only warning. On the Caltharian bridge, the translation system converted Carter's words into their language. Overlord Zephyrin laughed so hard that his scales turned bright yellow with amusement. "They want us to surrender?" he said to his officers. "These tiny creatures with their toy ships want the mighty Caltharian Empire to surrender? Shall we destroy them immediately?" asked General Vorthok. "No," Zephyrin replied. "Let them wait the full 30 minutes. Let them think about their coming doom. Then we will crush them slowly, so they understand the price of challenging us." Meanwhile, in the prison section of the Caltharian flagship, Captain Morrison and his surviving crew sat in energy cages. They had been prisoners for weeks, subjected to painful tests and experiments. The aliens wanted to study human biology and psychology. "Did you hear that?" whispered Dr. Lisa Grant. "That sounded like Admiral Carter's voice," Morrison nodded. "Earth got Blake's message. They came for us." "But there are so many alien ships," said Engineer Kate Sullivan. "How can 50 human vessels fight 200 Caltharian ones?" Morrison smiled grimly. "You've never seen what happens when Earth goes to war. We've been preparing for this day since we first reached the stars." The 30 minutes passed slowly. On the human ships, crews ran final checks on weapon systems that had never been used in combat. These were technologies developed during Earth's violent history. Refined and improved for space warfare, when the deadline expired, Admiral Carter sent one final message. "Your time is up. You chose war over peace. You chose cruelty over mercy. Now face the consequences." Overlord Zephyrin gave the order to attack. "All ships, destroy the human fleet, leave no survivors." 200 Caltharian warships opened fire at once. Their weapons were massive energy cannons that could destroy planets. The space around the human fleet filled with deadly beams of light, but something unexpected happened. Instead of being destroyed, the human ships seemed to bend and twist the enemy fire around them. Their shields didn't just block the attacks, they redirected them. "What is happening?" Zephyrin roared. "Why aren't they dead?" "Their defensive systems are unlike anything we've seen," the sensor officer reported. "They're using some kind of gravitational field manipulation. Our weapons are being turned away from their ships." Admiral Carter watched the alien attack with calm satisfaction. "Defensive systems are holding perfectly," reported his tactical officer, Commander Rick Stone. "Their weapons are powerful but predictable." "Good," Carter replied. "Now show them what human weapons can do." All ships open fire. The human fleet launched its counterattack. But instead of the massive energy beams that the Caltharians used, human weapons were different. They fired small, fast projectiles that seemed to disappear and reappear randomly around the enemy ships. The first Caltharian ship to be hit simply stopped working. Its engines went dead, its weapons powered down, and its shields collapsed. The ship was intact, but completely helpless. "What did they do to us?" General Vorthok demanded. "Unknown," his technical officer replied. "The projectiles seem to have passed through our shields and armor without damaging them, but all our systems are failing. More human projectiles struck more Caltharian ships. Each hit caused the same result: complete system failure without physical damage. Within minutes, 20 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy were floating dead in space. How is this possible?" Zephyrin screamed, "Our shields are impenetrable." On the Retribution, Commander Stone explained to a young officer what was happening. "The projectiles are nanomushni swarms," he said. "They're designed to pass through any known shield technology and then disable enemy systems from the inside." "But how do they know what to target?" the officer asked. "They learn," Stone replied. "Each nanomushni analyzes the enemy ship's technology and finds the best way to shut it down. It's like sending a computer virus that can think for itself." The battle turned into a demonstration of human technological superiority. While the Caltharians relied on brute force, humans used precision and intelligence. Their weapons were designed not just to destroy, but to disable and capture. Engineer Kate Sullivan, watching from her prison cell, smiled as she saw Caltharian ships going dark one by one. "They're using the new nanotech weapons," she told her. fellow prisoners. I helped design those systems. Will they work? Asked Dr. Grant. They were designed to work against any technology in the galaxy, Sullivan replied. The nanomachines can adapt to any alien system they encounter. As more Caltharian ships fell silent, panic spread through their fleet. These were warriors who had never experienced defeat, and they didn't know how to respond to an enemy they couldn't understand. All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance, General Vorthok ordered. We need to analyze their weapons. No, Zephyrin roared. We do not. Retreat. We are the Caltharian Empire. We have never been defeated. Sir, we've lost 40 ships already. Our weapons can't penetrate their defenses, and their weapons can disable our vessels instantly. Then use the planet killer, Zephyrin ordered. Destroy their entire fleet with one shot. The Caltharian flagship began charging its most powerful weapon, a device that could crack the surface of a world. It was designed to destroy entire planets as an example to other species. Admiral Carter watched the energy readings on his screens. They're charging their main weapon, Commander Stone reported. It's powerful enough to destroy our entire fleet. Let them, Carter replied calmly. It's time to show them what real power looks like. The Caltharian planet killer fired, sending a beam of pure destruction toward the human fleet. The energy was enough to burn the surface off a world and boil away its oceans. The beam struck the human formation and simply disappeared. The ships absorbed the massive energy attack and converted it into power for their own systems. Impossible, Zephyrin whispered. No shield can absorb that much energy. Their technology is beyond our understanding, Vorthak said quietly. We may have made a terrible mistake. Admiral Carter opened a channel to the Caltharian fleet. You tried to destroy us with the same weapon you used to murder entire worlds. Now you see the difference between us. We came here to rescue our people and seek justice. You came here to commit genocide. This is why you will lose. The space battle was over. The Caltharian Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, had been defeated by a species they thought was primitive, and the humans were just getting started. Admiral Carter watched as his rescue teams boarded the disabled Caltharian ships. The nanomachine weapons had shut down the alien vessels without destroying them, making it easy for human soldiers to enter and search for prisoners. Admiral, came the voice of Colonel Jim Hayes over the communication system. We found the Meridian crew. They're alive, but ... double quote his voice trailed off. But what, Colonel? Carter demanded. You need to see this for yourself, sir. We're sending video feed now? The main screen on the Retribution's bridge filled with images from inside the Caltharian flagship. Carter saw Captain Morrison and his crew in energy cages, but that wasn't what made his blood run cold. Throughout the ship were laboratories filled with medical equipment, and in those laboratories were human body parts being studied under microscopes. Dr. Lisa Grant appeared on the screen, her face pale and exhausted. Admiral, she said weakly. They've been experimenting on us. They wanted to understand why humans are peaceful. They think it's a genetic defect that can be fixed. Carter's hands clenched into fists. Around the bridge, his officers stared at the screen in horror. The Caltharians hadn't just taken prisoners. They had been torturing humans in the name of science. How many of our people did they ... Carter couldn't finish the question. 7, Captain Morrison replied as he was helped from his cage. They took 7 crew members for their experiments. They're all dead. The bridge fell silent. Carter closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with a look of cold fury. Colonel Hayes, secure all our people and get them to the medical bay. Then I want every file, every record, every piece of data from those laboratories. Yes, sir. Carter turned to his tactical officer, Commander Rick Stone. How many Caltharian ships are still active? About 160, sir. They've pulled back to defensive positions. Send a message to Earth. Tell them what we found. Tell them that 7 more of our people are dead, murdered in alien experiments. On the Caltharian command ship, Overlord Zephyrin paced back and forth on his bridge. Half his fleet was disabled, his prisoners had been rescued, and his enemies had weapons he couldn't understand or fight. "We need to negotiate," General Vorthak said quietly. "These humans are not what we thought they were." "The Caltharian Empire does not negotiate with inferior species," Zephyrin snarled. "Sir, they're not inferior. They've destroyed half our fleet without losing a single ship. Their technology is beyond anything we've ever seen." Zephyrin was about to respond when his communication officer interrupted. "Overlord, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast to the entire galaxy. Put it on screen." Zephyrin ordered. The image showed Admiral Carter standing in what appeared to be a military command center. Behind him were displays showing the Caltharian fleet and the battle damage. "This is Admiral Frank Carter of the Earth Defense Force," Carter began, his voice cold and hard. "I am speaking to every species in the galaxy. You have seen the Caltharian Empire, the most powerful force in this sector of space. You have been told that they are unbeatable, that their technology is supreme, that resistance is futile." Carter paused, letting his words sink in. "Today, the Caltharian Empire attacked a peaceful human exploration vessel. They killed our crew members, including a doctor who was trying to help injured people. They took our surviving crew as prisoners and conducted painful experiments on them, murdering 7 more humans in the process." The image changed to show the rescue of the human prisoners and the laboratories where the experiments had taken place. "The Caltharians believed that humanity was weak because we offered friendship instead of conquest. They thought our peaceful nature was a defect that could be studied and corrected. They were wrong." Carter's image returned to the screen. "We are humanity. We explore the galaxy seeking knowledge and friendship. We offer peace to all who will accept it. But we are not weak. We are not defenseless. And we do not forgive those who torture and murder our people." The transmission ended, but its message was clear. Humanity was not the primitive species that the galaxy had assumed. Minutes later, Admiral Carter received a response from Earth. The message was brief and direct. "Use any force necessary. Show them what happens when they cross the line." Carter smiled grimly. "Commander Stone, prepare the Phase 2 weapons." "Sir, are you sure? We've never used those in combat before." "The Caltharians chose to torture and kill our people. They chose to treat us like laboratory animals. Now they get to see what humanity is really capable of." The human fleet began to change formation. New weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments on the ships. These weren't the precision nanomachini weapons they had used before. These were devices that could alter the basic forces of reality itself. "What are they doing?" General Vorthak asked, watching the human ships on his screens. "Unknown," the sensor officer replied. "They're generating massive gravitational fields. The space around their ships is bending." The first human weapon fired. It wasn't a projectile or an energy beam. It was a distortion in space itself, a bubble of twisted gravity that moved toward the Caltharian fleet. When it struck the first alien ship, the vessel simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not disabled, but erased from reality as if it had never been built. "Impossible," Zephyrin whispered. "No weapon can do that." "They're using controlled black holes," Vorthak said, his voice filled with terror. "They can create and control gravity itself?" More gravitational weapons fired. Each shot removed another Caltharian ship from existence. The proud fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds was being erased from the universe. "All ships, surrender immediately," Zephyrin ordered. "Send the surrender signal now, sir?" His communication officer asked in confusion. "Do it before they kill us all." The surrender signal went out to the human fleet. Admiral Carter received it and considered his options. He had the power to destroy every alien ship in minutes. He could erase the entire Caltharian Empire from existence. Instead, he gave a different order. "Cease fire, accept their surrender." The gravitational weapons stopped firing. The space around the human fleet returned to normal. Of the original 200 Caltharian ships, only 80 remained. "This is Admiral Carter," he broadcast to the Surviving alien vessels. You have surrendered unconditionally. You will be taken to Earth for trial. You will face justice for your crimes against humanity. Overlord Zephyrin slumped in his command chair. His empire, built over 1,000 years of conquest, had been destroyed in less than an hour by a species he had thought was primitive. How? He asked General Vorthok. How did they become so powerful? They were always powerful, Vorthok replied. Quietly, we just didn't understand what real power looks like. Throughout the galaxy, other species had monitored the battle. The news spread quickly. The Caltharian Empire had been defeated by humans, a species that most had never heard of. The balance of power in the galaxy had changed forever. And humanity had sent a clear message. They preferred peace, but they were prepared for war. The age of Caltharian dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. 3 months after the defeat of the Caltharian Empire, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy had gathered for an emergency session. The topic was simple: what to do about humanity. High Counselor Nexus called the session to order, but his usual confidence was gone. The tall, blue-skinned Zentari looked tired and worried. We are here to discuss the new reality of galactic politics, he announced. The Caltharian Empire, which has dominated this sector for over 1,000 years, has been defeated by a species we barely knew existed. Ambassador Threll of the Vaxian Trade Union raised his hand. How is this possible? The Caltharians had the largest fleet in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds. According to our intelligence reports, Nexus replied, the humans destroyed over half the Caltharian fleet in less than an hour. They used weapons that could erase ships from existence and absorbed a planet-killing energy beam without damage. General Korvac of the Draconian fleet, who had laughed at humanity just months before, now looked pale. What are their demands? Do they want territory? Resources? Tribute? That's why we're here, Nexus said. Earth has sent an ambassador to address the council. The chamber doors opened and Ambassador Elena Rodriguez entered. She was a small, calm woman who walked with quiet confidence. Behind her came 2 human guards, but they carried no visible weapons. They didn't need to. Everyone in the chamber knew what human weapons could do. Honorable representatives, Rodriguez began, I speak for the United Earth government and all of humanity. We come before you not as conquerors, but as beings who seek justice and peace. Many of the alien representatives looked skeptical. In their experience, powerful species always conquered weaker ones. It was the natural order of the galaxy. 3 months ago, Rodriguez continued, human explorers made first contact with the Caltharian Empire. We offered friendship and peaceful exchange. The Caltharians responded by attacking our ship, killing our crew, and taking prisoners for painful experiments. She activated a holographic display showing the human laboratories found on Caltharian ships. They tortured and murdered 10 of our people, including a doctor who was trying to help injured beings. They believed our peaceful nature was a genetic defect that could be corrected. The chamber fell silent. Many species had heard rumors about the experiments, but seeing the evidence made it real. We did not seek war, Rodriguez said. War was forced upon us. We responded with the minimum force necessary to rescue our people and stop the torture. General Korvac interrupted. Minimum force? You destroyed an entire empire? We disabled their ships and accepted their surrender, Rodriguez replied calmly. We could have destroyed every Caltharian vessel, but we chose mercy. We could have erased their homeworld from existence, but we chose justice instead. High Counselor Nexus leaned forward. What does humanity want from the galaxy? Rodriguez smiled. We want what we have always wanted, peace, cooperation, and the right for all sentient beings to live free from torture and oppression. And if we refuse? Asked Counselor Vex of the Saurian Dominion. Then you will face the same choice the Caltharians faced, Rodriguez replied. Submit to justice or face the consequences of your actions. To demonstrate humanity's power, Rodriguez activated another holographic display. It showed a human fleet near an uninhabited star system. The fleet fired a single weapon at the system's sun. The star exploded. The supernova was visible from across the galaxy, a brilliant new light in the night sky. The message was clear. Humanity had the power to destroy entire solar systems. But they chose to use that power only on empty space. "We prefer peace," Rodriguez said as the hologram faded. "But we are prepared for war. We prefer cooperation, but we will enforce justice if necessary. Choose wisely." The Council voted unanimously to accept humanity's terms. A new galactic government was formed with Earth as its leader. The old system of conquest and oppression was replaced with laws protecting all sentient beings. The Caltharian Empire was disbanded. Overlord Zephyrin and his officers were tried for war crimes and sentenced to life imprisonment. The Caltharian people were given the choice to join the new Galactic Federation or remain isolated on their homeworld. Most chose to join. Without their warlike leaders, the ordinary Caltharians proved to be intelligent and capable beings who had been forced into conquest by their rulers 6 months later. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new galactic headquarters orbiting Earth. The station was a symbol of the new order, built with technology from dozens of species working together. Darlisa Grant joined him at the window. She had recovered from her imprisonment and now served as Earth's chief xenobiologist. "Hard to believe how much has changed," she said. Morrison nodded. "We went from explorers to rulers in less than a year. I'm not sure we were ready for that responsibility." "Does anyone ever feel ready for that kind of power?" Grant asked. "The important thing is that we're using it to protect others, not to hurt them." Through the window, they could see ships from dozens of species docking at the station. Former enemies worked together on scientific projects. Species that had been enslaved by the Caltharians were now free to develop their own cultures and technologies. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Morrison asked. Grant was quiet for a moment. 10 of our people died because we tried to be peaceful. If we had shown our strength from the beginning, they might still be alive. But if we had shown our strength from the beginning, we would have been no different from the Caltharians. "That's the paradox," Grant said. "We had to become warriors to remain peaceful. We had to show our capacity for violence to preserve our commitment to nonviolence." Admiral Carter's voice came over the station's communication system. "All personnel, we've received a message from the Outer Rim. A new species has been discovered. They're requesting peaceful contact." Morrison and Grant looked at each other. Another first contact. Another chance to offer friendship to the galaxy. "This time will be different," Morrison said. "How can you be sure?" Grant asked. Morrison smiled. "Because now they know who we are. They know that humanity prefers peace, but they also know what happens to those who choose war." Throughout the galaxy, the message had spread. Humanity was not to be underestimated. They were not conquerors, but they were not weak. They offered friendship to all who would accept it, but they would not tolerate cruelty or oppression. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And at the center of it all was a species that had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be prepared for war. The galaxy was safer now. Not because its strongest species had been defeated, but because its new leaders understood that true power comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when destruction is necessary and when mercy is possible. Humanity had thought they understood power when they first reached for the stars. They had been wrong. Power was not about exploration or discovery or even survival. Power was about the choice between justice and vengeance, between protection and domination. Between peace and war, they had chosen wisely, and the galaxy was better for it.